Hi class, so this week we begin chapter 11, and this is the chapter that the Jodes and many others make that great trek to this mythical a Garden of Eden type place, right? California, where it never gets cold and no one ever gets sick, and there is as much fruit around you can just pick it off the vine whenever you want, right? All right. So just going to give a brief background about this great migration, and I'm also going to explain this week's assignment. So roughly 2.5 million people left the Dust Bowl states, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma during the 1930s. I think I actually made the mistake and put 1 million in the forum. It was the largest migration in American history, as we will soon learn, right? Lots of people died on the trek. Why were they leaving? Well, right, the Dust Bowl, but I thought this was kind of profound. Oklahoma alone lost 440,000 people to migration. Now, I don't know what the population was in, but I bet you that was quite a significant chunk. Many of them, poverty-stricken, traveled west looking for work. And I should post one. You know, there was a lot of false advertisement, right? There was a promise of a lot more jobs than there actually were. So when you get 10, 20 people for every one job, you can basically pay them what you want, right? Because people are going to be desperate. But not only that, right? As these dust storms occurred, many came down with dust pneumonia and got sick and died. So from 1935 to 1940, roughly 250,000 Oklahoma migrants moved to California, and a third settled right in our backyard, right in the state's agriculturally rich San Joaquin Valley. A little bit of information about what was going on, some squatter camps. There's a squatter camp of ag labor migrants, 1/8 of a mile outside the limits of the state capital of California, of course, Sacramento, right? Above 125 units without sanitation, gross. Water donated by power company from a single faucet. Across the main road, upper right panel, is a trailer camp. Beyond is a newly developing shacktown community where lots are being sold and families are settling in makeshift home-built cabins and cottages of all descriptions. As more and more people migrated to California, the native Californians were starting to get a little upset, and there were signs, Okies go home, right? All this stuff. My grandfather on my mom's side was part of this, and maybe some of yours. And the reason why I chose the last book of the semester, the Tortilla Curtain, just to give a little heads up, there are quite a few parallels. So in many ways, right, most of us will make some sort of connection to maybe this or that novel that we end the quarter with. All right. So these Dust Bowl refugees were called Okies. Okies faced discrimination, menial labor, and pitiable wages, as I mentioned why, right? Upon reaching California, many of them lived in shanty towns and tents along irrigation ditches. Okie became a term of disdain used to refer to any poor Dust Bowl migrant, regardless of their state of origin. Dust Bowl captured the imagination of the nation's artists, musicians, and writers. Of course, Steinbeck had a lot to do with that. There's some others as well. I already mentioned some of these photographs by Dorothea Lange, right? There's some more of them here. And here's some artwork by Alexander Hogue, The Dust Bowl Landscape, The Drought Survivors. Look at that, Mother Earth Laid Bare. Crucified Land. Those first few pages of The Grapes of Wrath, when I first started teaching, I got a job at Merced College. and I wanted to do kind of like a description activity. So the first thing I thought of was the Grapes of Wrath. So I basically told the class, okay, you listen while I read the first 2 pages, and you draw what you hear, because he's very descriptive. Right? So Steinbeck uses the medium of the written word to convey his convictions, to convey his descriptions. And here, right, we have the same thing with the art. Okay. All right, and we've already touched on Woody Guthrie, right, the Dust Bowl Ballads. But here's another picture of him. I think I posted the song. Okay, so this week we're going to have one assignment. I spent the whole day Monday kind of revising, rethinking it. I figured, you know what, I'm not going to have you guys do a literary paper. This is the California Lit class, so let's focus on how the literature, has a relationship to our state. So, a discussion forum is meant to help you get some ideas for a paper that I posted, the prompt. Right, so it says, my intention for this is to serve as pre-writing. The first thing you're going to do is go to the resource page, and there's a link here. And, right, these are all prime examples of John Steinbeck, how he used nonfiction, right, to supplement his historical novel. So what I want you to do is choose one of these. And choose one of these that that could be turned into a potential paper topic, right? Well, how do you know? Well, as I mentioned in the prompt, right, I clicked on, right, Steinbeck, Life in the Camp. Let's read some of the background, and the discussion is these questions, right? So each one of these articles has some questions. So, and basically what it wants you to do is to read about what's going on. So here it's all about the labor camp. Remember, Steinbeck lived with him for a while, right? So you read the truth, right? And then you find quotes, passages from the book to sum that up. And as I mentioned before, right, to find out if it's a worthy topic, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you dug deep enough that all of these could be turned into potential paper topics. Now, next week, there'll be some more ideas. I want to think about the arts, and things like that. But I did a little research, right, just to see, and I found out, right, that Okies. Let me backtrack for a minute, because we are thinking, right. The whole point is, this novel. What kind of a legacy did it have, right? So Steinbeck wanted this labor board, right, for the migrant farm workers. And I think things were going well, but then World War II happened, and then everybody forgot about the Okies. So I did a little digging. So what's the legacy? Well, there's a lot of ways to look at it. Right? So what happened was, people like the Jodes, they're like, no, we're not going to farm. There was an opportunity in the urban industry, right? Because of the war, building ships, building aircrafts, things like that. Who's going to pick the fruit, right? As I said, I stopped there. You do your research, right? The country directly south of us had a lot to do with that. So what was the impact? Well, it allowed others, right, through a law, or right, that was made, right, to kind of come into the country and work. But it also, Steinbeck's vision did kind of come to fruition much later. So there's 2 or 3 different ways you can go here. All right, so that's what I'm thinking. Then you come back, right? You explain what you did. Let me get out of this one. So if I were to post, I would put, yeah, I did mine on the life in camp, and I would post these questions. I think some of them might have more questions, some of them might have less. Let's see. Steinbeck Okie trauma. Right, we click on that. Talks about the trauma. So I posed like some general ideas, right? How did the novel have an effect on the economy, religion, social, right? I mean, so you're gonna kind of choose one of these broad topics and dig a little bit deeper. So that's pretty much it. We're gonna do this one assignment. So I hope you enjoy it. Oh, by the way, I am gonna try to write a paper. I have some ideas. Hopefully I can get around to it this week.